Hello, this is Rob Seaman. You are listening to Whole Earth Radio. Today is season 2, episode 15. And for the final show of the season, I wanted to have a very special guest. A friend of mine, Dr. Jeffrey Burke, is the Director of Education for Kokora. As a new, exciting, and groundbreaking company that we'll talk about. Also want to talk about his podcast, the Honest Health with Jeffrey Burke podcast, which is an interesting new project that's basically a transition from Jeff's 42 years doing natural health radio, his decades in the industry. He's been a brand builder, someone who really helps to spread the message, the real message, not just the marketing. So it's real natural health as a natural health practitioner and also a media voice. And really, apart from all of that, and on top of all that, just a really dynamic personality and a great person, as you'll get to see here. With all of that in front of us, Jeff, thanks for being on Whole Earth Radio.
Oh, Rob, thank you so much. What a pleasure. I really feel honored to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And this is going to be fun. You had me on the Honest Health podcast to talk about food movement and other stuff, and I really appreciated that. It was a lot of fun. And it's an exciting time to be talking to you because there is a lot of new stuff going on. For someone who's been doing this over 40 years, you've got the relatively new podcast, the relatively new position as the Director of Education for Kokora. So let's start with Kokora because I think this is just so exciting. This is the new regenerative agriculture focused company that many people will recognize the name Rick Scalzo, the founder of Gaia Herbs. And before we went live, I was just talking about my experience with Rick and his generosity, as an herbalist and a company owner. He wasn't just the founder of Gaia Herbs, he was the founder of the Protocol Journal of Botanical Medicine, the founder of Medicines from the Earth. So this is someone, Rick historically has given back to the community quite a bit, not just having a company, but promoting herbal medicine, right? Herbal healing. So this new project, Kokora, having you as the Director of Education, that's really exciting. Tell us what's going on.
It's so funny. I've been blessed to do literally thousands of radio. I was blessed to work with a lot of brand new companies, help them get launched, and worked with a lot of companies that have been around a while, but maybe fell to the wayside. So we initiated another launch, bringing them back, making them visible, because sometimes things are priceless and we need to bring them back again because we forget because of the new bells and whistles that are coming down the pike. And all these years, I never had Rick on my show. I literally silently stalked him for well over 30 years and followed him. And I used a lot of products that he was recommending and creating. And luckily, this just happened. He purchased this absolutely gorgeous soil farm down in Costa Rica. And his farm down there, the CR farm, or this Costa Rica farm, is certified regenerative and organic. They just did a rating system on the soil. A lot of the stuff is new to me, but I'm also very much into the idea of the earth today and the earth down the road. People say all the time, are you one of those kind of people that kind of go crazy with it? No, I don't do the tie-dye shirts. I don't do the patchouli. I don't hug trees. I believe everything you want to do for the planet's fantastic. I just believe that we need to treat our planet like a checking account. You can't keep making withdrawals without making deposits. And we have to start doing that. So we have this gorgeous soil down there. It was just actually labeled as gold level soil, and which is phenomenal. It's the best of the best. And he is growing unbelievable herbs down there, which we're putting into the Kokora line. We literally just launched 5 powders, adaptogenic powders that are loaded with amazing nutrients, and a lot of the capsule formulas coming out in first quarter and fourth quarter next year. It's going to be a line that people can not only trust, but they can feel comfortable coming from someone like Rick Scalzo, who of course is my amazing mentor that I just adore being with. I don't think I've ever met anyone so absolutely 100% gracious and thankful for the people working with him. I've never seen it. And it's just, it takes me back a little bit because I'm like, wow, you really feel valued. And at the same time, your words have credence. And he brings your words into the conversation and your ideas. And that's really important. So it's a wonderful thing. I'm going to be traveling all over the country. I'm going to be teaching and training and speaking on regenerative agriculture. I'm going to be training on these amazing products. I'm going to be doing lots and lots of visibility social media on my own platform, but also on other people's platforms like your own. And I'm going to be doing something fun with Rick. We're going to do a 14 or 15 part series on my podcast. Every month, we're going to do a full podcast on one herb that he's growing on the ranch, and we're going to do complete details. So anybody that tunes in is going to have a full understanding, say it be ashwagandha. By the time you're done listening, you are going to have a full understanding of both the history, the uses, the idea behind it, how it's been used. You may think it's news, but it's got thousands of years behind it. And when you walk away, we're going to do that for 14 to 16 different herbs. So there's a series that you can follow. And it's almost like taking a class. By the end of it, you're going to have a solid foundation that you can use in your everyday routine while being in the health and nutrition field.
Wow, and when you were talking about some of the products coming next year, so you've launched with these 5 adaptogenic powders, but you're saying over 40 products in total here, right?
I'll give you an idea. We have 5 mushroom products coming out. We've got a Cordyceps Energy. We've got a 5 mushroom wellness, a lion's mane memory, a reishi vitality, a turkey tail. And then we have the rock singles, rock meaning regenerative organic certified. We've got ashwagandha, turmeric, bacopa, ginger, echinacea, holy basil, and then coming out with 5 blends, a memory, an energy, an adrenal, and a stress and a sleep formula. So rounding everything out, they're beautifully packaged, gorgeous boxes, glass bottles. And I think people are going to really kind of feel the passion that goes into how these products are actually put together. And I think it's important. And something I want to mention, Rick is somebody, and he's always done this. I think we live in a very impatient world. And I find myself, being a little bit impatient these days, and I really try to hold myself back because there's many circumstances around you that you don't know about that could be causing things to go at a slower pace. But that being said, in our industry, people use their impatience as a way of ending something very quickly because they didn't see what they wanted to see in the period of time they wanted to see it. You know how people are. I use this and I didn't see anything. Let's spend one day. You didn't get in this mess overnight. But the problem to me is, in my heart, they, rather than coming in and saying, could we talk about this? Maybe I could find something that fits me more, a better fit for me, a product or a different label. They come in and they go, this doesn't work. This whole industry, nothing works. And then we lose them and they never really get to feel and make a difference in their life. So Rick does something, it's interesting to me. It's called front loading. And front loading is something that you do in your products to keep them very potent so that when people start using them, they feel it. They feel a difference. They see a difference. They make a difference, which is to me very motivating because I want to see something. I want to feel it. I want to be able to say, oh my goodness, I love this. I can't wait to get to the next bottle. So his front loading philosophy, although it's been something he's always done, is more important today because our world has become so incredibly impatient and we all want the magic wand. I'll tell you what, I wish the magic wand worked because I would open a chain of magic wand franchises all over the place where people could walk in and you just waved a wand and everything was fixed. I would love that. But that's not the world. Let's be realistic here. We didn't get in this mess overnight, and it takes us some time to clean it up and be healthier in our choices.
Yeah, and I think back to the legacy of what Rick was doing when I first got in the industry 30 some years ago ish, and working at a store in North Carolina, and we had this giant wooden spinner. It was like
mammoth.
It was mammoth. And
I remember that.
I think we had every product that Gaia made more or less pretty close to it. Everything that was a fluid extract or what have you. We had the specifics, the GBEs, and the level of innovation at that point was almost overwhelming. It just really drew me in to, I had already studied herbs when Mike Moore and Gene Rose and stuff, but this was getting more scientific, getting more focused. And it's interesting what you said about the front loading part, but I want to ask you about regenerative agriculture because another great thing about what Rick has been doing continuously is growing your own, growing his own, growing the company's own herbs for these formulations. So we talk about being vertically integrated in this industry. If you don't have control over the production of your ingredients and you're just piecing things together, you're going to have limited control over your quality, right? So quality starts from literally, right? No pun intended, from the ground up. So take us through for folks that are just hearing this term regenerative and they know about organic and maybe what that means. How would you describe or take us through what regenerative really means at Kokora?
And thank you. I think it's important for us to know this. There was a time over my career, your career as well, when we would talk about organic was the thing to do. And if you could afford it and it fit the budget and the pocketbook, organic was the way to go because we were basically taught. And at that time, our soils were better. You were getting better quality, better taste in many instances, more nutritive value, and you were not getting pesticides, chemicals, and all the stuff that was harmful either in, on, or around the fruit or vegetables or the crops you were growing. So here we are 40 years later from where I first started working with organic, and we now are still not getting the chemicals and the pesticides and all that stuff, but the soils have changed. Some statistics I really wanted to throw out before we get started. Our soil erosion on our planet, they are saying now that we have about 60 years left of topsoil. Some are saying we only have 30. Also, our ecosystem has collapsed, which of course is affecting organic as well. Our insect populations have declined by 57% since 1989. Our bird populations are down a third over the last 10 years. Now, they're saying that pesticides are some of the biggest problem. Of course, changing in weather, of course, is there too. And of course, we have way too much carbon in the air and not enough carbon in the soil. So here we have these amazing organic ranches that have been around a long time, but I think people have gotten a lot comfortable. I don't think crops are being rotated like they used to be. I don't think good, healthy additives are being brought into the soil. So many times your nutritive value or nutrition label as well of what you're eating that is now labeled as organic many times doesn't have a lot of a difference than something that's been grown in a chemical field nutritionally. So
Yeah.
where regenerative comes in, regenerative agriculture can take it to the next level because you're not just worrying about the things you're doing today. You are preparing the soil to be healthy for your kids and your kids and your kids. We're actually making those deposits into the accounts. And I think it's really important because we are missing so much. And people know about the gut. We know about a microbiome in the gut. The soil is microbiome as well. There's all kinds of amazing things. There's bacteria, there's fungi, there's protozoa, there's nematodes, there's these things that are in our soil that is all connecting. And we have to do more of the nutritive cycling. We have to do something that gets those nutrients absorbed and the sugars and the carbs released into the soil so they're more adaptive. So when you're looking at regenerative farming, things that you will see differently, they usually don't till. If they do, it's very light tilling. They also go in and they plant. A lot of time, all the plants and holes are done mostly by hand. And then in between the crops are ground crop covers. So the crop covers fill in between to keep moisture in. And people don't realize that these things they put in between the rows of the crop that you're growing also keep weeds down, as well as keeping moisture. Now in Costa Rica, it rains, what, 9, 10 months a year. So you're getting plenty of water, but it's not just getting it, it's holding on to it in the soil. And one of the interesting things I learned from Rick is down in Costa Rica, they have something called ME, which is basically a way of putting microorganisms natural into the soil as the fertilizer. And the story behind it is they take these trucks and they go into the surrounding forest and they forage. Basically they're getting fruits and vegetables that have died on the ground. They want the nutritive value, leaves and bark and dirt and branches and things that have fallen on the ground, any mossy areas. They bring it all back and they chop it all up. And then they add things like molasses and vinegar and eggshells and coffee grounds. And they make it this syrupy, gooey, sticky mixture. And they put it in these huge 50-pound bags that look, they zip it, they look like tea bags. And they take these tea bags and they put it in 200-gallon containers and they soak for weeks. Then at the end, they take it out, they squeeze it out, and then that becomes the stuff they spray on the plants and the soil, and it's nutritive. I'm sure you could probably drink it due to the molasses. It's all natural, all healthy, and it just gives them these amazing nutrients to be able to release the nutrients and help to rebuild the structure of the topsoil and protecting the biodiversity factor and making healthier crops and getting better yields. They just harvested passion flower, and the yield was so much more than a regular farm growing because of the nutritive soil. So it's amazing. And to see this, I can't wait to go down to Costa Rica. We were talking about what's the first thing I want to do. I said, I want to go out in the field and sit in the dirt. I want to take a big bucket, turn it upside down, put my laptop on it, and do a podcast from the dirt. And somebody said,
Nice.
what are you going to call it? I said, from the dirt. So I want to be on the ground level, literally and figuratively, to talk about that. But I think the bottom line to your question, Rob, is regenerative farming. It's not just a method, it's a philosophy. It's about working with nature rather than working against it to produce food that's not just good for us, but also good for the planet, and also leaving a turnkey situation for the soil that the next people that come into it can continue it. And the soil has been taken such good care of that it's going to continue to serve you.
So would you say that regenerative, the way that Kokora is doing it, incorporates aspects of permaculture,
Mhm.
biodynamic farming? It sounds like there are some parallels there.
Very much. And I think it all just does come down to the soil. We know that when you're dealing, let's say in our matter, as it comes to herbs grown in regenerative farming systems are often much more nutrient dense. They're rich, they're organized, they're balanced. They give you much more essential oils and vitamins and minerals. It's a result of the soil's improved health. And that's also good. And then the other thing is the potency of an herb is largely determined by its environment. Regenerative farming ensures that the herbs that are basically grown in these conditions without any kind of pesticides or preservatives give you a much better, healthier, stronger, more potent product, as well as even better flavor, and even into the areas of things like shelf life. We're in alignment with organic. You're very much in line. You're also taking it to the next level. And I think that really makes a difference. I am so excited. I'm trying the powders right now. I'll give you an example. I just got these yesterday. This is one of the products. It's the roasted Kokora Lift. It's like a caffeine-free coffee. So you can put it in like a French press and you could press it, and then you can drink it. You can mix it with your coffee because there's nothing wrong with coffee. Pour it over ice and have it that way. Or you can mix it in things like yogurt or oatmeal or smoothies or whatever. And people do like powders, and these are heavy, potent herbal adaptogens. So I think it's going to go really well. And I think people are going to be open to it. I'm starting to see a trend in a lot of the health food stores around the country. They're starting to, like it happened 40 years ago with organic, they're starting to set up regenerative sections in the
Yes.
store. And I think that's good because it's not just a thing, it's something we need to focus on because we're continuing to grow on this planet. We're growing all these people. These mouths have to be fed, and we have to be able to have sustainability. We talk sustainability when we're talking about omega-3s and fish in the ocean and all that kind of stuff being sustainable. I get it. But we have to be sustainable for the biggest foundation we have, which is our food supply, and make sure that things are not just being grown to be grown, but they're grown to be healthy. But we're also protecting the actual area where everything is grown so it can continue to do its job.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I find myself having these conversations about what real substantive change looks like coming from our industry, because we're at this level where natural products has grown to more than ever mainstream acceptance. We're reaching a wider audience, but a lot of people start to feel like with all the corporate buyouts and everything, maybe there's potential for some watering down of what we're really all about. And the opposite end of that is the potential for real change. So something like Kokora and regenerative farming is, to me, I'll use the cliche, putting your money where your mouth is, right? Instead of greenwashing, which we've seen, hey, we're selling Snickers, let's make an organic Snickers. And it's just, same garbage, different package. But on the other end of that, you're talking about really changing the way that we grow things and really going to a deep level, so deep that we're going down to the dirt, right? And we're getting to that really micro level of what makes a good quality product, what makes something that's good for the world, not just slogans or brand distinctions without a difference. We're talking about really making a difference. And that to me is really exciting.
And I want to touch on one of your points. I was asked recently about, excuse me, what I feel about these large conglomerates and corporations buying up companies within our industry. I said, people have the right to sell and people have the right to buy. I get that. Do I feel that they are on the same level mentally, emotionally, and spiritually that many of us are with our drive and our goals within the industry and the health of the public? No. I'm sure they do have some of that. Do I think they were purchased because the companies are successful? They see a good thing and they want to be a part of it? Yes, all perfectly good. What I do see is our company comes under attack a lot. Our industry gets bombarded. How many times have we been through so many crazy things where we've got government intervention and there's all that kind of stuff, and we're becoming stronger and stronger. When it first hit years and years ago, we didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of strength behind us. So that was a big fight. But today we do have a lot of it. And I see these companies, I guess I could say, protecting their assets where they're not going to let it happen. And so I'm happy that they have the financial backing, which I think they would use and utilize to help to protect the industry that they're now a part of. So to me, that's a good thing. Like I said, you can't make somebody love something. You can't teach someone how to care. You can't teach someone how to have a passion. But you can teach people how to represent and how to learn and how to educate and how to talk to customers and things like that. Those are all trades you can learn, but you can't make somebody want to be passionate about something. You either do and you are, or you're not, and a lot of us are. So we have to stay strong to our affirmations and keep us close to our passion, because that's what drives the industry. That's what built the industry. These mom and pops all over the country that have worked so hard to educate. And, coming out of the pandemic, one thing I did see, if there was anything good at all, it was how people had come back to health food stores because they really needed that one-on-one, because there was fear, there was confusion, there was misinformation, and every day it was something different. And I think us being up to date and having those open doors for communication and comfort as well as teaching, I think it really did make a difference. We are the foundation of this industry, and education is one of the best things we can do. It takes a lot to be able to stay up to date on the information and then what you can say and what you can't say and what you want to say, but that one kind of ends up way back here. One of my friends said the other day, he said, how do you balance it? And I said, you have to listen. You want to follow Deshay. You want to respect it. You want to make sure you're doing what should be done and not saying and speaking out of turn. I said, but you can give a lot of information. I call it walking on the edge of the cliff on a banana peel holding onto a rope. So you know how far you can go, and you should respect that level and those boundaries and not go outside of it, because you don't want to set back this beautiful industry because your passion wants you to drive a little further than you should be going. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it does. And I think you do an amazing job and have for a very long time
Thank you.
of finding that balance. And I think I would credit it if to your intention and if you really care about people's health, and that's the underlying thing. You said people want to be healthy. They want to, what do you say? They want to get healthy and stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not just trying to sell people a product. We are focused on products as solutions. I mean, which I think is the best way to facilitate a lot of these things. But you're also giving people information they can use in their daily lives. If people are making changes in their diet, they're making changes in how they think. These are things that will really resonate beyond marketing products. So I think we've always had to work within this conundrum of stores, health food stores, or where you buy products. But it's been very different historically than going into Walgreens or something and buying a product. It's more of an experience. It's more of a community-centered healing and education movement.
People always say, I wish my wife would quit smoking. Smoking is legal. They can do it if they want to, and they're going to do it if they want to. And harping on them is not going to make them all of a sudden say, okay, I'm going to quit today. It doesn't work that way. They have to be ready. To your point, when you go into a health food store, you are making a commitment to yourself that you are looking for making a change because maybe you need some help. Maybe you are confused. Maybe you've tried and you didn't ask questions, and you're actually opening up the door. And by going in and engaging a conversation, it really lets your body know that you're doing something. It's good for your spirit. It's good for your balance, to let you know that you're looking to be better than you are, because you know that you're probably sidestepping the good stuff and probably not taking care like you should. And I like nothing better than when someone reaches out and said, yeah, it's my first time in and been going through a lot of stress and stuff lately. So I came in to see what this is all about. I'm hearing good things, but I'm confused. So can we have a conversation about me and how it works with me, not how it works with this person, but everybody's different. I may follow a completely different protocol than this person because my life is different, but I need some guidance. And there's nothing better than that to me. That just touches my heart.
And that's probably a pretty good segue here into the other part of the discussion that we're talking about, having a discussion about your transition, your personal transition from radio
Yeah.
to the Honest Health podcast. And I know I think I was talking to you at the Positively Natural show in Vegas last year, and you were getting ready to launch the Honest Health podcast, but at that time, you were putting a lot of thought into it, but you weren't just jumping into it. In other words, the Honest Health podcast probably evolved as the process of a lot of thought on your part and how you wanted to transition. So what's been the biggest differences and similarities between your 42 years of radio and now entering the digital age with Honest Health podcast?
A lot of people told me it was time for me to embrace technology, and I've gotten okay with technology. I'm not great at it. I really wished I'd hung around with all my friends that were doing technology when I was little, but I didn't, because they're all running the world now. But I really wish I had. But the thing is, it was time. Terrestrial radio has changed in many instances. People used to sit down and just, they know when my show was on, they would sit down, have their cup of coffee and tea, they would listen, or they listen in the car on the way to work, and it was a certain time and times throughout the week. I was doing 10 to 15 shows a week, and people knew when I was on. And we didn't have streaming back then. We didn't have a lot of that, but technology was starting to creep up. When I first started radio, they used to drop a needle on a record for 5 minutes, and that was your break. And no matter what record it was, they would just put a new one on there, and you got 5 minutes or whatever they dropped. And then it went to 8 tracks, and then it went to cassettes, and then it went to MP3s, and then it went to discs, and all of a sudden everything was wireless. And then I was able to set up at home, and I was able to bring in an IC line, an IDSN line, bring it in, plug it in, and do my show from home. That was like spectacular back in 2012. And then I was recording, and then I got to the point where people were not tuning into terrestrial radio as much because they were starting to listen to a podcast and listening when they wanted to listen. When I decided to do this, it took me a long time to press the button. I had already ended my show, and I waited almost a year before I got started. And I don't know why I couldn't push the button. My mother's 90. She goes, push the button, will you please? And I'm like, all right. So I finally did. And what I've been doing is I've been reaching out to so many of these amazing minds and leaders in the industry that work with me a long time ago. And I'm giving them guilt, and they're all coming on my podcast because guilt is wonderful. And I'm going to be taking it a different level. Yes, I'm going to have the best minds. We're going to talk about health and awareness, but I'm also going to open the door to entertainers and people that are in the know, people of interest that we love and we put on these pedestals. I don't want to talk about their performance or their sports or anything, because I've had athletes as well. I want to talk about how they prepare to be able to do what they do. How are they living the same kind of things that we're going through? And it's good for us to know that, they're battling the bulge. They're dealing with mental health issues. They're having trouble sleeping. They're having trouble with energy. I want to know what they're doing so we could find out that, number one, we're not alone out here on that branch. There's a whole bunch of people that are in the limelight, but behind the scenes, they're struggling with things as well. I want to talk about that. So whether they're an athlete or an entertainer, why not open the door so we can all learn? It's all about education. And if we can learn something from somebody that I have on here who we already love and we follow, we love their music, their sports, their athleticism, whatever. And you think to yourself, God, I never knew that they had some mental health issues and they're dealing with anxiety and stress, and that they've had a history of depression. I had no idea. You don't see that out in the limelight in front of the camera. I didn't know that they were having trouble with their diet and they switched over and now they're vegan or they're doing something different. I want to know that. That they had trouble with, they had cancer. Who knew? They kept that so quiet. How did they do? How are they now? What changes did they make? Those are the things that I think we need to hear and need to listen and need to learn from, because we're all looking for information. We're all looking for a better quality, healthy life. So I think with the podcast, putting them in an I guess a platform that allows people to listen when it's convenient for them, whether they're listening to the audio on Spotify or whether they're watching us on the YouTube channel and they're able to see what's going on, immerse themselves into the conversation. Some people get better visual than they do audio. So we've got both of them there. And I think it's going to be an incredible journey. Sorry I waited so long to push the button, but they say that everything happens the way it's supposed to. So maybe but thank you for asking. I'm very excited about the platform.
Yeah, no, I think there is merit in waiting until you're comfortable and you are sure that you have outlined exactly how you want to do things and you've put a lot of thought into it. For example, some people launch a podcast and they don't do like we're doing here, the video part. Some people just do an audio podcast. With Whole Earth Radio, I do the same thing. I make the video available generally, unless there's some extenuating circumstance, and then the audio also on just out there in all the podcast aggregators. And you never know. That is the great thing, I think, when you can reach people. I will sometimes just be in the car. Say I have a long drive and I'll go on my podcast aggregator and I'll search for a topic. Hey, I wonder if there's anything on fulvic acid or if there's anything on ashwagandha or whatever regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really fascinating to have this sort of new way to access information. And I don't think we've even hit the full stride of what podcasting will eventually be, because there's probably going to be new ways to interact with all this information. I think about all the content you're creating. You're talking about going up to, you're now at 4 shows a week, or
I'm 2 shows a week now, going to 3 shows a week in November and 4 shows hopefully through December. And then first quarter of next year, I should be at 5 shows a week.
Wow. And you were talking about just with Rick from Kokora alone, you guys are doing that 15-part
series.
Mm-hmm. This level of content really becomes, it seems to me, like a library, of these living experts, yourself and your guest, and all this information. I'm just musing here, that at some point we're going to come up with better and better ways, rather than just searching, that there will probably be ways to organize some of this information. And we do have it with keywords and things like that. We all use part of the technology, but it's just interesting to me to think about. I have a lot of herbal books and other kinds of natural medicine books in my library at home. I don't pull them off the shelf that often. I don't pull out King's Dispensary and flip through it very often. But I think this is a dynamic field. It's the information about what somebody that we admire, look up to, like you said, a celebrity, a sports figure, what they're doing about their health, to me, is just as relevant. And it forms this spectrum of what they were doing 100 years ago or 200 years ago.
Yes.
What have we learned, and what has our personal experience been? There are just so many angles to this.
And it's interesting. I go back far enough, and back in 1980, early 80s, I remember being in a health food store, and I was there after hours. They were doing inventory. I was just starting in the field, and there was a knock on the back door, and they opened it up, and it was 2 doctors from UCLA Hospital. And they came in the back room, and they had these bags ready for them, and they got their stuff and paid for it, and they left. And I said, that was weird. And they said, oh, no, they all come to the back door because their colleagues don't want to see them shopping in a health food store. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And that was the mentality. It was just like you were not. It was that back then. It was such a fight. But now today, we've got amazing doctors. They write handwritten prescriptions for vitamin D and omega-3 and flax oil and a multi and cayenne pepper and turmeric and ashwagandha. So it's really started to meld a little bit. Will it ever completely? Probably not. But it's so much closer. And there's that understanding that drugs are not the only way. They have their place, and thank goodness for them. I was speaking with a guest yesterday, and we were talking about the strides and the people that are on this planet just because of antibiotics that saved their life from an infection. So we have to give credence and kudos where they're deserved. But do I feel that every single person needs to be on a statin? No. Do I think that every single person needs to be on pain medication? No. Or even something as simple as a omeprazole for their stomach and covering up the digestive problem. Do I think no. I think there's many things. It's individual, but I also think there's many other paths that people should exhaust or at least think about trying before they sign up for a whole lifetime of just being medicated. They have their place, but it doesn't mean that everybody has to go down that path at the beginning. They may end up there, but there's many stops on that train before you get to the caboose.
Yeah, and that's one of those things when you get to this point in your life. I met 50 people are saying to me, wait a minute, you've gotten to this age and you're not taking any prescription drugs. I don't take prescription drugs. Thank God, to your point, I don't need to. I have it when I was younger, taken antibiotics and things like this, but I'm thankful that I don't need any prescription medications, knock on wood, at this moment in time.
Yes.
But the idea that it's a given, that at some point you're just going to go to the doctor, we're going to put you on statins, we're going to put you on these drugs just as a matter of it being assumed that's what's going to happen. And my assumption is that, of course, we have a natural philosophy, but my assumption is that the body, starts from a point of being self-sustained. And that's my assumption. Their assumption is that you're going to need drugs. My assumption is that you're not. But if at some point it does become something changes, I have some need for a prescription pharmaceutical, then I would take that. I'm not so hardcore that I would, what do they say, cut off my nose to spite my own face. But I think the wonderful thing about how you look for solutions, if you have a headache and you go for the ibuprofen, that is one kind of allopathic synthetic drug-oriented solution. But if you have a headache and you think, what am I doing? What am I not doing? Am I dehydrated? Am I not getting enough sleep? Maybe I just need to take a break and kind of do some meditation, or there's a million things you could do, right? You could take some ginger root. There are many different things you can do besides reaching for a synthetic drug. And it's not to say, to your point, that no one needs synthetic drugs. They're evil. They should be banned. It's nothing like that. But we're so biased still. There are lots of great doctors that do recommend natural things, but I feel like the default is still towards, well, ultimately you're going to need to be on a bunch of drugs by the time it's all said and done. And I'm just going, that's not my philosophy.
I'm a lot older than you are, and a lot by a lot. And
really?
People,
Don't look it.
Yeah, I'm 65.
Man, you're doing great.
Oh, it's the lighting. So I'm kidding. Many people that are in my age bracket, they're on a ton of meds. And I know many of them that would no way be starting two new ventures at the same time and putting themselves out there because they're retired. Sure. They're enjoying what they're doing, and all the power to them. They've worked hard all their life. But the thing is, I think a lot of it's your mental condition. It's how you think. It's how you treat yourself. And I think we have to have respect for each other out there. And that is already waning all over the world. Respect is gone. Pleases and thank yous are almost extinct. But you also have to have the same level of respect for yourself and realize that things may happen and you may have to go down that road that you don't want to go down. But there's many things that you can do, and you have to listen to your body. You can't keep turning off the signaling process. When your body's talking to you, you need to listen. I have a funny story. I have a friend years ago told me this, and I use it all the time. He said he was driving to work one day, very stressful job, and he hits this stop sign that actually takes him across the street where he pulls in the parking lot where he works. So it was a Monday morning, and he pulled up to the stop sign, and his brakes started squealing. And I can't deal with this. And he just turned the radio up. He goes, not this week. Got to work every day that week. He squeaked a little bit. And then the following week, he forgot about it. And it just stopped squealing. So it was out of sight, out of mind. About 3 weeks later, he pulled up and it was a loud squeal this time. And I can't, I've got meetings all week, turned the radio up, went through a week of that, and then nothing. And then about a month later, he pulled up and there was burning and grinding and all that kind of stuff. And he went to the mechanic, and the mechanic said, you need new rotors, we need to breathe the brakes, we need new pads, we need everything. He goes, why didn't you come in when it was just starting to whistle? And he was like, he said, so you turned a $100 brake job into a $1,500 brake job because you weren't listening and you didn't prioritize. And I think we do that with our health. Yes, we're busy. Yes, we're juggling so many things in the air. But if you're not feeling well, whether it's your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, reach out, check it out, find out what's going on, because you may be able to do something very simple and very easy. But if we wait till it's a major problem, then it's a major problem.
That is, but it's funny. I learned that lesson myself as that exact lesson with brake maintenance as a teenager. And why didn't anyone ever tell me? Sometimes you just have to learn things the hard way.
True.
But hopefully with our health, we don't learn the hard way. And I do think the more we get in tune, it seems to me, with listening to our bodies and thinking about our health, it's the paradigm shift, right? Just like I said, I've got this problem. What's the solution? Maybe the solution is changing something mentally or changing something diet-wise or any number of things. But I think we live in a society where for the longest time, the solution is always a product, and that product is usually not a natural product. So it's the most natural thing in the world to shift to a natural product being the solution, and then we just put a fork in it, or put a pin in it, we've solved that problem. But the very idea of holistic health is what drew me, and I'm sure many of us, to this industry, is just by the very nature of the way we're looking at things. There's no one size fits all. There's no just do this and then forget about it. It is that looking at the big picture. And like you said, listening, being open to things. The most fascinating thing to me about what you're doing and the level you're doing your podcast, you personally are getting this more so than ever, more the past 40 years of all this knowledge and information you have. You're now getting this daily stream of health information from other people. You're like this conduit for health information.
You want to be, and my passion is so strong. And I just don't want to miss anything. I want to be around. I don't want something to come up and I'm like, oh, I waited 40 some years and I'm just going to my 46th year in the industry and something happened and I ended too quickly. No, I want to learn. I want to continue, because they say that we forget more things than we remember. And they say that many times when you hear something and you're like, I used to know that, I just forgot doing it. I used to make smoothies. I used to do that. And I got a letter the other day. I used to get these questions on my radio show, and I would do a whole radio show about that question. So I just got one the other day. It says, hey, Jeff, I've been listening to you for 30 some years and now I'm on your podcast. And I started doing smoothies, but I'm so bored with protein powder and almond milk. She goes, would you do one of the shows you did years ago about all the add-ins and all that stuff and how to make variety? So I'm going to do a podcast this weekend on smoothies, how to dress them up. And now I can talk about these Kokora powders. I'm thinking to myself, what a great way to amp up and do add-ins to your smoothie and take that smoothie to a level that it's going to hugely make a dramatic difference. But they're smoothies. And I tell people, they're like, yeah, I got a blender under my counter somewhere. I used to make smoothies. We forget. It just becomes easier to go to a drive-through and get a breakfast sandwich, or go to Starbucks and get your gigantic mocha frappa, whatever, and get your gigantic muffin, and you're 1,600 calories in before you start your day and you don't even know it. And you're like, I haven't eaten anything. Yeah, you did. So we're fighting the battle of the bulge. You're doing that, and an hour later, your sugar drops, and then you're reaching for food again. We have to make some changes. We really do, because our health demands it. And we should be doing it out of respect to our own body. Because I'll tell you what, my friend, there's a lot of people leaving this planet with a lot of coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and they wish they could do it all over again. And I've lost a lot of people in a much younger age that I tell you, they would trade it in a minute to come back and do it differently. So while you're here, Do it different. Have respect for yourself. Think about the planet. Think about regenerative. Think about organic. Think about supplements. Think about reaching out to friends and family who may need someone to reach out to them. You could change their world by a text or a phone call. And remember to put yourself into a priority position and pull yourself off the back burner, because we need to start prioritizing because we deserve it and we've earned it.
Wow. Wow. That is so deep and so fantastic. And
Thank you.
that's probably a good place to draw this one to a close. I'd love to have you back on in the future. I'm looking forward to hearing that smoothie podcast you just made me hungry. I'm sitting here thinking about the chocolate smoothies when I haven't been doing it lately, but using raw cacao and maca root and
Oh, yeah.
some like cayenne, a little bit of cayenne just to get that spicy choco maca flavor going on. And not only does it taste amazing and unlike anything, but you're talking about feeling so good when you get herbs as food. That's what we don't talk about enough, right? What makes you feel amazing? Like that's probably more so than like, how do we treat problems and things like everybody wants to know that, right? What's the key to feeling amazing?
There was a time when food was used primarily for sustenance, rebuilding, rejuvenating, rehydrating, relubricating, and fixing all the stuff that we wasted and damaged and overused during the day. It was like our regenerative life back then. We were creating deficiencies and we put the food good in to fix all of those little cracks and crevices, and then we did our day. Now we use food as a comfort. We use it as a way to celebrate. We don't just meet someone, we meet them for food. We do everything around food. We celebrate everything. We drown our sorrows. We celebrate a promotion. We do everything. And when people are depressed, they reach out for food. Do they reach out for a salad and a side of broccoli? No. They reach out for a slab of ribs and ice cream and fried mozzarella and pizza, and because it's a comfort. And I always leave people with this. A comfort zone is comfortable. A comfort zone is familiar. Our rear end knows that dent in the couch very comfortably, where our arm lays on the arm and the remote fits in our hand. We know our comfort zones, but it doesn't mean they're good for us or that they're healthy. They're just familiar. So I hope people will take the time to listen to my podcast. I appreciate this so much. If you go to my webpage, drjeffreyburke.com, you can tap on the Honest Health logo. It'll take you to Spotify. You can listen to the audio when you're driving or at the gym or on the treadmill. You can tap on the logo for YouTube and you can watch any of the interviews. I think you'll really enjoy them. I hope you'll follow me on social media. I guarantee you I will keep you engaged and enthusiastic about putting yourself first and put yourself into a priority position. I'll be there. I'll be your cheerleader. So you're not going through it alone, but reach out to me. If you have any questions, I'll do what I can. And if I can't answer it, I'll connect you with somebody that can.
Wow, that is so fantastic. I really appreciate you, man. And we will definitely put a link to all of that, to Kokora, to Honest Health, to all of that in the description of the show. And it's funny, we can actually look because you see where people jump to, and people do actually dig deeper, delve deeper and click on these links. So we're not just throwing them out there, but when people hear what you have to say, obviously you have an important voice and people are going to say, wait a minute, this man is on the radio every week. Why don't I click on this? And it is, you've made it so easy for them. Like you say, it really is just easier than ever. The click of a button there that folks can tune in, and you have so much content and so many great guests that I think you're going to get probably a lot of traffic from this show and probably from every show you do. I figure it's probably a ripple effect where people are hearing your message and it resonates with them and they want to hear more.
Can I ask you, will you come back on my podcast after the first of the year?
Oh, I'd love to. Anytime. Just
Great.
Let me know and I will clear my calendar.
That'll be fantastic. Rob, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. What a great honor to be here. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.